Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast.
So we are right here at the coolest conference with all the coolest solar nerds in the world. And if somebody's a solar nerd, tell me, Rudy, how could they be cool like us?
Is solar nerd not cool?
I know, yeah. There's probably like some not cool nerds, but they're just not at the NABCEP conference.
Sure. I think if you just don't speak code numbers.
Yeah.
You talk about code, just don't actually say the code reference and the extensions like the B2, 3,
Yeah.
That throws your nerdy alarm up.
Is that good or bad, knowing all those things? Like,
if you're trying to be cool, less solar nerdy, I think it's a bad thing.
And, I was kind of disappointed that they're going to start changing the numbers and Article 690 is going to be 506. I already got all the 690 tattoos.
Yeah.
Like,
and
what am I supposed to do?
That jersey was pretty sick that you're wearing.
Yeah.
Solar Bears jersey.
Yeah, I found there's a sports team from Orlando called the Solar Bears, and they're a hockey team. And I got number 690, had it custom made. And then for the name, I put ESIP for Energy Storage Installation Professional, PVIP for PV Installation Professional.
That's cool too. Being a current student of your ESIP class going through HeatSpring, it's a good class. And I think one of the things I like about taking your classes, specifically that one, is they're a little bit more upbeat. It's pretty hard to sit in front of a computer for 40 hours and just listen to solar nerds. But when it's a little more funny, like that HeatSpring course, it's been better.
Yeah, that's what I try to do. When I was in college, I had like some boring teachers, even high school, that's really boring teachers. And then I had some like really cool, colorful, funny teachers, and I decided to be like them. Like one of my favorite teachers, John Walzer, rest in peace, like kind of following in his footsteps.
That's cool. What class did he teach?
He taught early American history, and we'd come into the class and his wife would come in playing early American folk songs like Jimmy Crack Corn and I Don't Care. And then he'd be narrating it in the background going like, you know what cracking corn is? It's making whiskey. And he'd be like, everybody round up the wagons. And then we would take all of our desks and put them in a big circle, and we'd be all clapping our hands, like singing Jimmy Crack Corn songs and stuff like that.
That's hysterical.
And that's how we learned about early American history, was going there. So that's why when we're learning about solar, I take you inside the inverter and you become an electron. Not really, but I don't know. Just
that's good stuff.
Yeah. And so I try to make it fun and funny and upbeat. I guess like one of the things like that I started off before I did a podcast is I would read Article 690, like poetry reading. So I used to sit in poetry circles, like with my old friends in Canyon, California, and we'd stay up until sunrise, drinking red wine, reading poetry. And I was like, I could do that with Article 690. And I'd be like, 690.1, scope. And
that's hysterical.
Just try to, liven it up.
Yeah.
Make it as fun as possible.
It helps. It really does, especially for us getting the CEUs, having to keep the regular trainings and those sorts of things. It could get very mundane sitting in front of just repetitive stuff. So it's appreciated from the student.
Yeah. If you have to live, you might as well enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we have to live. I guess, we want to live. That's living is
if you don't have to.
Yeah. But like, why go through life being miserable if you could go through life being optimistic and happy-go-lucky and laughing? I think like laughing and jokes are very important and healthy.
It pays dividends, I think, even in a workspace, right? Like you get a crew of people that you enjoy working with, your products tend to be a little bit higher quality, or you tend to have a little bit better outcome and success with the product. So I think, I would agree. There's actually studies where laughter and better energy or higher frequencies, lower frequencies will have absolute different consequences to your health. It's like when you do that experiment where you talk to your trees or your plants and they grow faster, right? It's that positive reinforcement. It's the good energy.
How do you know the trees aren't just laughing at you?
What there's in and of itself is laughter helps that tree grow, right? So if it's laughing at you, it's increasing its mojo.
Yeah, and we know they don't make any noise when they fall down by themselves, so they need us there talking to them.
Good point.
And my favorite tree is a redwood tree.
It's pretty cool. I had just gone to Jedediah State Park this past year and seen redwoods for the first time in my life, and it was a pretty darn awesome tree. I've hugged quite a few of them throughout the park.
All right.
Yeah, awesome.
That's good to be a tree hugger. I used to be a tree protester, and I went to like Redwood Summer. We went up and we like protested, and there was like Julia Butterfly climbed a tree, and We were marching next to Woody Harrelson and Governor Jerry Brown, who wasn't a governor at the time, and Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead. Then Bonnie Raitt got arrested. There's all kinds of cool stuff.
Really? At that one event?
Yeah, at that one event. Yeah. I think it was in Scotia, over Scotia and Humboldt, Mendocino County, something like that. But it was pretty cool. So we were just talking about, we were in my PBA associate class, and we were talking about trees, because trees, it's like, are they good or are they evil? Take your pick. Like, they shade a PV array, but they make oxygen. I don't know. Trees, good or evil? What do you say, Rudy Saporite?
I think they're great.
Yeah,
they're great.
I think trees are good. But when they shade your solar array, so it's like kind of funny. I remember that it used to be you could set your inverter to tell you how many trees it saved. So you set your inverter to tell you how many trees it saved, but it can save more trees if you cut down a tree. And if you cut down a tree, you could save 10 trees or something like that. It was kind of crazy, but I guess where that calculation comes from is if you're shading your array, then there's more CO2 made from burning fossil fuels. And so that's kind of how they do the calculation as far as like saving a tree by cutting down a tree.
That's interesting. I see that's similar to how we measure the difference between like a internal combustion engine versus a battery powered car or something. Maybe.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like if you're powering your battery powered car with good old coal, good old American coal.
Yeah. Well, there's that, but even just the life cycle of that design, right? I think Volvo put out a study that said an internal combustion engine would have to drive 90,000 miles to produce the same amount of carbon that is attributed to just an EV vehicle day one of its life cycle. So the life cycle hydrocarbons or life cycle pollution potentially that's made from that is equivalent to 90,000 miles of driving an internal combustion car. So you need to drive 91,000 miles in your EV to prove that you're winning.
So I'll try to drive more to save the planet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I kind of would question that too. Like, I wonder where that's coming from. And then another thing is like, well, what's the life cycle like of an internal combustion engine car? Because, or whatever, like all that carbon that it takes to make a EV, well, they got to use a lot of carbon in like factories and all that kind of stuff to make an internal combustion car. And so they got to take that into consideration. And now EVs are being made with more renewable energy. So if you're using solar power to do a lot of that
to be
stuff,
a force multiplier for sure. Yeah.
So he might want to take that stuff into consideration.
Well, it also
too.
removes the argument that people have, are we clean energy or are we just offsetting when we're dirty, right? It's that time of use. I'm not producing or burning fossils here today, but generating silicon is incredibly energy intensive process and oftentimes is not done with electricity, is done with burning or fuels.
But I guess like if you just kind of took the averages of what people say, like for a PV system, making solar and all that kind of stuff, that it takes a year for the solar system to pay its carbon debt. And if we have a solar system going for 20 years, that's 20 times better.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And then as we make more and more solar, and then it's going to be less and less, it's going to take a half a year to do its carbon debt because half of all that solar was made with solar power.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if it just happens to be that the solar is being manufactured in a place where they don't have solar arrays, but then that solar is going somewhere else, it still pays off really well as far as like the globe goes.
I can buy it.
Yeah, if you care about the globe. Yeah.
The globe, or some people call it the plane.
Yeah, the plane. Yeah. I like to call it the plane too, because when I'm in the plane, in the airplane, I look out and I know that it's flat.
It doesn't seem very round.
Especially when I'm driving over like the Midwest, it's like, it's looking pretty flat.
Yeah, good point. I'll leave that argument to my kids though. I lose either way.
Yeah, I have a t-shirt that has the path of the sun over the flat earth, and I just think it's kind of funny. And then I wear it out to the store. I'm like, you know, I think people are looking at me thinking I'm crazy.
Why would they do that?
I know, it's just kind of, maybe it's fun to be a little crazy.
I often get the same look, but I don't wear the same shirt. So maybe I am crazy and that's why they're looking. I don't know. That's good.
Yeah, I think you got to be a little crazy too, because you're doing what I did yesterday. You're wearing a green tie-dye as a t-shirt underneath your regular shirt. I did that. I thought that's kind of a coincidence.
And as I mentioned to you, this is the Wiley shirt that they were giving away here at their booth. And I got it from a friend of mine, Sarah Parsons, who is the Burndy project manager over there, and who
they're giving out green tie-dyes.
Yes, for the St. Patty's Day event this week here. And another cool fact, it's even cooler for me because she and I went to elementary school together. So to be here 30 or 45 years, I guess. I shouldn't lie about my age that much. But, 39 or so years later to be working in the same industry is super cool too.
That's pretty cool, especially since I don't remember anyone in elementary school. I think half of my school is probably here. I just don't know any of them. Right? Yeah, I wouldn't even recognize my best friend from elementary school, but I went to a lot of different schools. So we were going to talk a little bit about games, and so you are in charge of the solar games at InterSolar.
I am one of the advisory board members, and I am the head MC. I don't know that I'm in charge, but yeah, I'm definitely part of the team of folks advising on that committee.
As far as like somebody, just regular person like me, who you made a solar judge, so I got to participate. Awesome. It looked to me like you were in charge. So.
Appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot that goes on, and giving a lot of respect to the team that is there. Johan's also on the team. The gents from Revision Energy, Travis Genetasio. We've got Jeff Miles from Rolls. Robin Swanhauser from Twin Day. So there's a group of us. But then once we get into that show, I'm still not sure whose decision it is to keep giving me the microphone for 4 days straight. But that individual has not been fired now for 7 years. And somehow they keep giving me the microphone for 7 days. So that's why I think it looks a little bit like I'm in charge. But there's a lot of hands that go into that. As you saw being a guest judge, our guest judges participate in that as well, right? Because we're looking at so many details during the competition. There's so much going on. It's been actually super rewarding, super cool event that I thought the first year was going to be terrible. And I agreed to do it 1 year, And then we had a buzzer beater. It was surprisingly one of the most exciting and coolest competitions I'd been part of. Somehow we're going on our 7th year next year.
7th year. So next year is going to be the 7th year.
7th year. Yeah. We're talking also about potential regional competitions where we may try to qualify folks Northeast, Northwest, and Midwest as well here during those competitions, just so that San Diego event can sort of be the national event.
So maybe you could kind of let us know about, like, how does it work? What are the rules? How long do people have? Like, what's the time?
So it's an hour and a half to install typically a 4 kW system. Depends on the modules that we get donated each year. They sort of get a little bit more powerful. But it's 10 modules on a rooftop. The rooftop is a pitched roof that we have built and brought in as our mock rooftop. Typically installing all of the components, and it depends on the rounds. The scoring will typically change, but we score them on things such as PPE and installer safety, but also internal to the components, how things are wired, how all of the components are installed. Are they level? Are they meeting manufacturer's recommendations? And it depends really, again, on the round. Sometimes we'll try to throw curveballs, like final round. We might remove panels or put in a roof vent. So now they have to navigate around a different roof structure than they were used to the previous 2 days. Or in some cases, we've been adding different components, like an off-grid system. This year we did the AP systems, 2-to-1 microinverters. We try to throw them some curveballs and try to make it so they're not just repeat installing the same exact system for each round, but that it's increasing the difficulty and skill level as the competition moves on.
And I think it's always like a tournament. So there's like quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, right?
Yes.
And so it's always like 2 teams competing against each other.
Yeah. Well, they're usually going head to head. And what we had done in the first 5 years was head to head. Each round would end and one of those rounds would have a winner. This year, we actually moved to a larger bracket style scoring where the final points were captured for each event or each competitor during each event. And then at the end of each round, we took the highest number of competitors, the highest scoring competitors to move into the next round. So where previous years you would never have the opportunity to go head to head against the same team more than one time, this year you actually had the dynamic where it could have worked out where you went head to head against that same team, potentially 3 rounds if you all were the finalists.
So it's like the US Open and Wimbledon, they're stupid, huh? Because they're not doing the way you're doing it?
I'm the worst guy to talk to about sports because I don't actually watch any of them. So I don't even know how to score those events. But I'd probably say, they're not as cool as us because
they are pretty cool because they score with love.
They do score. I do know that. That's a good, you're all right at this. You're all right at this. Yeah, I do remember the love. But does the love come, I remember it being like 40 love. Is that the score, right?
Yeah, so love means 0.
Oh, okay.
So if you lose, at least you got love. All you got is love.
Way cooler way of saying 0. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did change up the scoring this year. Mixed reviews when we debrief with all the competitors. The teams have been great. You know, we can't pull this off without the sponsors, without the competitors, without the advisory committee. And everybody comes every year with just a ton of energy and a ton of effort. And, you know, shows get better every year. It's really surprising.
Yeah, it seems like it's the most action on the floor, you know, as far as like fun stuff, what's going on. And it's kind of a good place to go hang out too. And there's bleachers, there's just like activity going on.
Yeah, people throwing shirts into the crowd like it was a real arena and stuff going on, the DJ and the music playing. So completely different vibe than your average just walk around the conference center and just hang out.
And so one of the things probably that people might have like a benefit or a drawback for is like there's all these solar installer teams.
Yep.
And they are used to a certain type of racking. And now they all have to use like the certain type of racking that you're using.
That the sponsors bring in, yeah.
How does that work? How do they prepare for that? Or how do they win the $10,000?
So we're planning this literally, we just ended InterSolar, 2.5 weeks ago or so, 3 weeks or so. And we immediately jumped into planning for next year. So we're planning year round on this. The teams are brought in roughly 3 months prior to our final install when we've got the sponsor data, the sponsor equipment, and we provide all the manuals to them. That is one of the critical pieces where we really try to make them read the free manuals because we grade them on the various little details within those manuals. They have the opportunity to see all the components beforehand, but I think this is really similar to what crews may deal with on certain projects because you're not always going to use the same racking. Or you may get a new product that comes in and a certain customer wants a certain inverter versus one that you might standard or offer standard. So I don't think it's uncommon for us in our industry to have to deal with variations in materials, but that's absolutely one of the intentional things we do. And in our example, the racking is the same. K2 has been our sponsor for years, and they
so you use K2 every year.
Correct. Currently, thus far, we have. They've been a great sponsor.
I wonder if some teams switch to K2 just to prepare.
It's possible.
Because it seems like there's such a learning curve when you're learning a new rack.
There is.
So if it's like, this is my first time ever doing K2, and you come out there, you know, you're not going to do as well as somebody who's done it before.
Or, some of the guys who are running K2 on their regular stuff every day, they might have a little bit more of a feel for that product while it's there, but there's no guarantee that that's going to be the one we use. And there's a lot of other dynamics that I think people don't consider within the games. It's not like you're just installing a system. You've got an hour and a half. You've got an audience full of people standing around you. You don't have your own tools. Milwaukee was a sponsor for us, so we all have Milwaukee tools that everybody uses that are all the same for each round. So you're in a different environment. You're shell-shocked in a sense because of the timing and because of the arena setting, and you're installing a number of different components while the judges are literally hovering over you watching all those things. So your familiarity with a certain racking is maybe one of the simplest leg ups you could get in a very difficult competition or a very difficult setting. So I don't think it lends too often to an unfair advantage for folks that might have familiarity.
Yeah, I remember one thing that we were looking at, there was like something that wasn't clicked in to like, there was like the rail and it wasn't clicked in right. And so me and the other judge, we were trying to look at it to make sure that it wasn't clicked in right, but we couldn't tell. But we didn't want to show the contestants that we were looking because then they might find it and fix it. And we didn't want to.
That's another, Or even folks that are around the arena, audience members tell them, hey, you got low hanging wires or, so there's a lot of that coming on. But you're right. From a judge perspective, to keep everything fair, we try not to give out any instances during that competition. They will have the chance to, if they catch it, fix them, but we're taking into account all of that stuff and how they're doing it, what tools they're using to do it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I did notice like one of the team members that I was judging was talking to somebody else that was like not a contestant.
Yeah.
Should we have like thrown him out?
No, I mean, to each their own. I mean, you could talk to somebody who's giving you the wrong advice, so it's not always a value add that somebody's chiming in and giving you extra input.
I just thought of some ideas. And you know how like in Rome, they would have lions and stuff? Maybe we could like get it a little bit more realistic. And sometimes their solar installers have to deal with like pit bulls with rabies, stuff like that. We can maybe throw a couple of them in there.
It's funny you bring it up. We actually, we always talk about it from a safety perspective. And we've joked about maybe breaking someone's leg. If they step off a roof or they get off the ladder the wrong way.
Yeah, essentially, that's called a lesson.
Tying their leg so that they can't use it. Like, no, you didn't die, but now you have to work with a broken leg.
Oh, okay.
Or if somebody steps off the room,
that would be a good lesson.
Literally just take that person away. So now your team of 4, because somebody fell off the roof, is a team of 3. So we have considered some of these other things, but I think thankfully they're always in our pre-meetings and they don't ever really get through to the end, where I think Lions might be safety prohibitive, right?
I just thought of an idea of maybe how we could partner.
Okay.
I could take some pictures of doing it right and doing it wrong from the solar games and then include it in my classes.
I think that'd be an awesome one.
Think that would work? Or we have to ask some people?
I've got a couple scary ones too, even when we were wiring the lead acid Rolls batteries one year. I think it was our 3rd year, and we're evolving as the teams are throughout these competitions as well. And this was the first year I turned around to the director, Jim Callahan. I said, we don't have an EMT nearby, do we? Because this guy's about to shock himself off the top of these batteries. He was sitting there over top of the batteries, and I don't want to be incorrect in the way I'm saying anything here, but he straddled over the batteries, and a certain part of his body was on one terminal, and he was about to touch the other terminal with a different part of his body. And I have a photo of this, but I don't know the education you could use it for, but it is certainly an interesting photo.
It sounds funny, and it's okay to be incorrect. I think it's
okay.
Fine. Yeah.
He was about to touch his nutsack to the wrong terminal.
So that would have been really good for a video for one of my classes. Talk about being entertaining.
And the audience, right? The audience would have probably loved it too. But so he ended up arcing these terminals off the batteries, thankfully not with any of the wrong parts, but with the wrong wires.
Oh, wow. So he made an arc on some batteries.
He did, yeah. We've got the photos.
That must have cost a few points.
Oh, he lost all battery points. And I actually told him, I said, listen, you are actually no longer allowed to touch any of these battery components. I've lost all points for them.
Yeah.
Which brings up a little bit of the reason why we thought about regional events, because we're taking on their word that they're qualified folks. The folks that compete have to have one NABCEP member on the team at least, which means you could have 3 fairly unqualified individuals supporting you. And those individuals are running electrical circuits and trying to install these electrical components. So understanding their capabilities or their level of knowledge is pretty important, and something we don't necessarily get the chance to do before every competition. So safety is needed.
All right, Rudy Saporite, I have to go to class right now because I'm teaching a class and my students are down there waiting for me. So thanks so much for talking to me on the podcast. And thanks so much for Nico Johnson and Suncast of letting us sit here under their bright lights and make noise and shine at the culprit.
And my bald head around.
It's great, yeah. And thank you, Rudy Saporite, for saying something incorrect about how somebody almost got shocked. And it's been a lot of fun here. And I'm going to go teach a PVA class. And if you haven't taken the PVA class yet, come take my class at the next NABCEP conference over on Heat Spring. Thanks a lot, everyone. Woo!